everyone, I'm Raisa. I'm here on behalf of FDR. Today we have with us Dr. JP. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Raisa.
Sir, the incident in Kolkata has brought the nation to a halt. How do you view it and where do you think we failed as a nation?
As you said, Raisa, there's not an Indian family which is not affected by this. It's not a tragedy of one family or one young doctor. Each of us feels very personally because this kind of thing could happen to, I'm now old enough, I have a daughter, to my child, my sister, my wife, my mother, or my friend, or my cousin, anybody. I'm sure in almost every family across India, beyond region, religion, caste, and language, every family is feeling this strongly. Particularly because in our country, we deal with violence against women of this kind, gender violence, sexual violence, and molestation, as the ultimate sin. That is somehow the cultural trait of this country. And anger is inevitable. And an attitude of vengeance, no, we must punish. Whoever has done that obviously must be punished in the severest form. Hanging is absolutely necessary, very quickly, as soon as possible, but based on evidence, with proper investigation, etc. Not false police encounter. Because if you resort to anger which is reckless, to satisfy the public sentiment, you may end up killing many innocent people. It happened world over, it happened in India also, I'm sure, on occasion. In one case, maybe you're actually killing somebody who deserves it, but there's no guarantee that tomorrow somebody who's innocent is not killed. And we pretend that we actually punish the culprits, whereas culprits roam free. Innocent people die, society is not better off. Actually, it's worse off. So we have to develop a mechanism to very quickly punish the culprits, detecting them through forensics. Take the British riots last 2 weeks, because 3 innocent young children were brutally murdered by a thug, a 17-year-old thug. And there was some misinformation spread about his religious affiliation. There were riots in Britain, massive riots. But what is important for us to recognize is within 15 days, many of the rioters were not only arrested, but they were convicted and sentenced. It all started on 29th of June, or 29th of July. We are now on the 17th of August. In these 19 days, already dozens of people were convicted and sentenced. In India, we cannot even imagine that. So we require really a robust mechanism to very quickly identify, find evidence, and through due process, not through kangaroo courts or lynching, they must be convicted and sentenced. In this case, I'm absolutely certain a death sentence is perfectly justified, given the enormity of the offense and the impact of it on society, creating a terror. But that's not enough. Because the truth is, with increasing urbanization and impersonal lives, women are more and more potentially under attack. They're potentially victims of violence on the street, sometimes even at home. So we must do much more than merely awarding the severest punishment to the culprits in a case like this. That's obviously necessary, but we need much more. You are a young lady. You are an accomplished professional. I'm sure all of you, when you are participating in a variety of activities in society, economic activity, professional activity, or personal freedom exercise, you go to shopping, you go to a film, you go to some leisure activity, whatever, which is your right, which is what we should have. In the name of safety of women, if we imprison women at home, if we relegate them to the kitchen, then we are going back in time. And I'm sure there's a temptation in every family to say, no, my daughter is in danger, therefore let her not go out. That's not what we need. What we need is, can we create a safe environment for women on everyday life? in everyday life on a daily basis. We are only responding very aggressively and angrily and emotionally when a ghastly, terrible, unspeakable offense like this happens. We have seen it in Nirbhaya case, we've seen it in Disha case in Hyderabad, we've seen it now, we are seeing it in Abhaya case. But we all know, and women experience, young women like you, every day, the sub-threshold offenses, eve teasing, describing a woman's body, unwanted advances, describing her or touching her without her consent in a bus or something else, whistling, catcalling. I think most young women got used to it and they somehow deal with that in their own way. And there is always that trepidation, that fear. And once you don't address these below a certain threshold, if you take them as normal, then issues get escalated. A signal is going around in society that if you behave more violently, more aggressively, it's perfectly all right. So we have to stop it here, now. You may not have to hang everybody for this, but you can certainly impose a quick penalty or a very short jail sentence and put them on probation. If you're a student, a repeat offense like this, and you lose your seat in college. If you're a professional, then repeat offense like this, you will be in jail for a long time. So once that fear is there, that society is going to be very tough on this. You will not be allowed to behave as you please. Then the chances of escalating to higher degree of violence will be reduced. So we have to have a robust system of local courts, very quickly and in a summary fashion, but through due process addressing these and awarding a punishment within a week or 10 days. It may be imposition of a fine, it may be a short sentence, but with probation, etc., so that society is keeping watch. You have to create a safe environment for our girls. We should not imprison them now in the name of safety. That is the biggest danger now, out of this anger and emotion, out of fear and genuine concern for women's safety. If we enslave women further, take away their freedoms, not allow them to participate in the social and economic life of the country, that's not what women's freedom is about. That's not security of women is about. And we must go even beyond. This is all state action. We must go beyond that also, Reza. Who are the culprits? They're not imported from some alien planet. They're part of our society. They are the menfolk in our society, or the boys in our society. Who are raising them? Our families are raising them. We are raising them. Even today, in almost every family, the boy is treated somewhat differently from the girls. You want to set the dinner table, the girl has to take charge of that. After eating, you wash the dishes, the girl does it. If a boy does it in many families, they say, no, you're a boy, why are you doing it? So the sense of entitlement for the males is still continuing in our families, across all cultures. And therefore, they think the woman has to be always inferior, subordinate to their wishes. And each of us, the menfolk of this country, are part of this process. We are all culprits in some way or the other. You may not treat women disrespectfully or insultingly, but definitely the expectation that women do things which men don't have to do. They cater to the needs of men or youngsters, boys in the family. It is widely prevalent. I think we have to rethink that. Unless, while raising the children in the family, boys and girls, they are treated with equal dignity and equal responsibility. The attitudes that women have to succumb to your wishes or will, that may continue later on in a family, in a marriage, or outside in society. Similarly, in our schools, in our media, in our films. I mean, many films, sometimes I'm revolted that a hero is seen to be heroic because he's harassing the girl, the heroine. It's a terrible signal we are sending. That the only bond of affection and friendship is harassment of a girl and eve teasing is a terrible idea. They may say at the end of the film we are showing that the villain is beaten up and hero has prevailed. And that's very little consolation. So across all a range of activities in our life, we have to rethink the way we portray women, we think of women. And without that, I really don't know how we are going to come out of this. Because young men with raging hormones, if they don't learn how to treat women with respect and have friendships which are warm and affectionate, without intending any kind of violence or indignity to women, my fear is we'll forget these incidents after some time, once emotion subsides. And again, something else ghastly happens after some time. Again, we become emotional. But we must learn to channelize this anger, this sense of outrage, this emotional, deep emotional impact. We must learn to channelize that constructively and build a society where women are truly safe. My appeal to each family, each of us, not blame others, each of us is, let's focus on that. Otherwise, it becomes no, this caste, that region, that religion, this political party. Already know if something happened in one state, then one party versus another party. We get lost in that. The real issues are forgotten. This is above parties, above caste, above region, above religion. Because in almost all Indian communities, all religions, all castes, it is a fact that women are treated even today a little inferior to the men. There are expectations of certain things of women, and men are not expected to do those things. That simply is not on. If you want to build a modern society with equal opportunity, then I think it needs also introspection on our part. So you have to act quickly in punishing. You have to protect women from day-to-day lower levels of offense, create a safe environment across the spectrum. And we all have to, in our educational institutions and families and society, rethink the role of women, portraying women, or in dealing with women in our own personal lives. I think that will be a creative response. We must channelize our anger constructively.
So, facing gender violence and molestation is quite a common occurrence in our society, and as you rightly said, it's also been normalized. As a woman myself, when I walk out and I am eve teased or catcalled, I, when I walk out of the house, I prepare myself of that
You
possibility.
expect that.
I expect that to
And
happen.
you somehow build defenses around that.
Yes, so-
which is a tragedy, is it not? A child should not be expecting that. It is a terrible thing. And we all should be ashamed that we have not created a safe environment for you.
Yes, sir. So, the extent to which that's normalized, that now if I'm walking past a stranger man, it's muscle memory to ensure that my hand is in front of my chest to be avoid being groped or to see how I'm walking and so on. And for these instances to happen at schools, at offices, at workplaces, anywhere, why is it that our society has become immune to this now, and that our knee-jerk reaction is also sometimes for women to be more careful than for men to take that? Why have we crossed that threshold of abuse?
I'm now conjecturing. Partly culture, that's the way things are, that's the way men are. Therefore, women must bear the brunt and somehow figure out a way of protecting themselves. That's the expectation. The male domination is a normal thing, is the expectation. Partly because what happens to girls outside, for many families, I don't think it's even conscious. They don't even pay attention to what's happening. They're blissfully ignorant and they don't want to know too much. They think it's okay. And I think both must be addressed. I'm sure every day there are millions of cases of low threshold assaults on women in our society, as you explained, for instance. And our pretense that these things are not happening, we must give up. We must actually create a climate. There are some extreme cases where, one or two cases I remember in Mumbai, etc., could be some other city also, where women actually were molested in public, in the public transport or something, and the whole crowds around ignored it. Now, if we pretend that these things are not happening, even when extreme violence is taking place, let alone small violence of eve teasing and catcalls and groping and so on and so forth, then we all have to bear responsibility. A strong signal must go from all of us by law, and therefore a legal mechanism to address the individuals and punish them quickly, and by society that this is not acceptable. We will not remain silent. we will take action on the spot, because every citizen must act as a policeman. We don't require police. In moments of personal liberty being at stake, in moments of personal danger, each of us have to act. That's our responsibility. And somehow, when you hear of dozens of people in a railway coach or something, when a girl is being molested or something, they simply were mutes, silent spectators. It's a disgrace. It's not acceptable. That's why the issue is beyond the government and politics. Government has to do a lot. We have abysmally poor rule of law. If in Britain within 10-15 days, after riots, or even as riots were continuing, people could be convicted and sentenced. On 29th of July, the riots started. Already dozens of people were convicted and sentenced for participation in the riots. So, apart from punishing the serious offenders in case of extreme harm, like in this case, we must send a strong signal by law and in society that these public spaces are safe for women and any deviant behavior will not be tolerated, even if it's supposed to be sub-threshold behavior. I think we all have to bear responsibility for that. I have no doubt in my mind. That applies to the households. We cannot treat women as chattels, that a man of the house can do whatever he wants with a woman. He can beat her up if she doesn't obey him, quote unquote, obey him, or does not please him or something. It's just not on, not acceptable. So I think our society fundamentally is decent, but if we are now sensitive to these things and then address them systematically, I think we can create a much safer environment for girls, for women in this society.
So, to conclude, what would your message be to young women, men, as well as families and parents, and how they should look at this?
Now, first is channelize this anger and this emotion constructively. Chest thumping and expressing our grief in moments of extreme anguish is necessary to show our response and to mobilize society, but it doesn't really change anything unless it's channelized constructively. Second, don't fall prey to political machinations. Now, this is about us as a people. It's not about this party, that caste, that region, that religion. It's about us as people. So, transcend these narrow loyalties, because the moment you fall prey to narrow loyalties, the real issue of women's safety is relegated to the background. The problems continue to fester, and it's only the question of this tribe versus that tribe. That's a very dangerous thing. The third, don't merely make it a political and legal issue. Obviously, politics and law are involved, and the government has an obligation to do what is necessary, state or national, in terms of having the laws and then making the laws work. But it's also our problem as a people. Because these menfolk who are indulging in these crimes, they have not come from Mars. They have not come from some other planet. They are our own children, our own menfolk, from our society. We raised them. And if large-scale violence, though many instances of sub-threshold violence, is taking place, who are the people perpetrators? It is our kids, whom we are raising badly in our family, whom we are schooling badly in our schools, whom we are training badly in our society. So don't always blame others. Let the searchlight be thrown inwards, and let there be some serious introspection and change in our own behavior. Day to day, unthinkingly, we are doing many things to sort of sustain the stereotypes of gender. Each of us is guilty. I think we must own it up, acknowledge that, and then address that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.